This is probably the least I have looked forward to seeing the Bulls play this week. And it's not because of the Bulls, because to be clear, I always look forward to seeing the Bulls play. Anyone who kept up with that team over the last 4 years when they were rebuilding will take watching this team over anything from the teams of the past for the Bulls. But it's more so because this isn't the true Bulls team that we have with how gutted this roster is. And on top of that, we're playing a lot of bad teams this week, so it's not like the opponents are intriguing to face off against. Also, I just really don't know if I can take the Bulls losing to another lousy team like they did against the Magic last night. But either way, in this video, we're going to be reviewing the games ahead for the Bulls this week, who they'll be facing, what to expect in each matchup, and my predictions for the week. So what's going on, everyone? You are listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. So after last night's game, I would call it an embarrassing loss. Yes, the Bulls were shorthanded, but you still lost to the worst team in the league and a team that only had won 8 games all season. That's a bad loss. But the Bulls are right back at it tonight, traveling to Oklahoma City to take on the Thunder. The Bulls are off on Tuesday and come back to the United Center to face on the Raptors. Then on Friday, they take on the Spurs in San Antonio, and then we'll close out the week back in Chicago on Sunday against the Blazers. All of these teams, with the exception of the Raptors, are below 500, and the Raptors are actually at 500, sitting 9th in the East at the time of this recording. So by all measures, this should theoretically be one of the easiest weeks for the Bulls, again, if they were healthy. So let's start with tonight's matchup against the OKC Thunder. Now, as I mentioned in last night's game, post video anyway, that Billy Donovan did hint that it was possible Zach Lavine and Javonte Green would be available to play in tonight's game against the Thunder, despite earlier reports that both Lavine and Javonte Green would not be traveling with the team on this trip, and the soonest they would be available is back at home for Wednesday's game against the Raptors. That would be a huge relief for the Bulls if they were able to get Lavine and Green, especially if Lavine is against the Thunder, because the Bulls just need players, like legit NBA players, not taking anything away from guys like Tyler Cook or Alfonso McKinney and even Matt Thomas, who have come in with the Bulls when they've been shorthanded and played well. Same also applies to Malcolm Hill. But they're not on the same level as guys like Javonte Green, and especially not Zach Lavine. And as bad as teams like the Thunder or even the Magic from last night are, they're still professional teams with professional basketball players. Now, for the Thunder, they have lost 5 in a row, 9 of their last 10. They're going to be hungry for a win against one of the better teams in the league, knowing that the Bulls are in a slump right now and shorthanded. The main thing in this one is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. For the Bulls, how are they going to have an answer for him with the likes of Lonzo and Caruso not being able to guard the perimeter, given that they're out? Now, Shai isn't necessarily having as good of a season as he did last year. Last season, he was scoring at a much more efficient rate and was a borderline all-star. He's still an incredible player, just that this season hasn't been as impressive as his 3rd year in the league. But in any event, he's going to be a problem for the Bulls when you have such limited perimeter defense. Ayo, who I assume will be on Shai on this one, has to be 100% locked in and playing top-notch defense to keep up with Shai's speed, athleticism, and slashing ability. The good thing is SGA hasn't been shooting the 3-ball that well this season, so you don't have to focus on him as much from the perimeter. Outside of SGA, though, I mean, the Thunder have Lou Dort, who's been a solid scorer for them, but hasn't really been overall that efficient, and he's kind of struggled with that throughout his career. Josh Giddey, who I've been really impressed with as one of the top rookies in the league, a good scorer, a good passer, and a decent defender. The Thunder hit well drafting him with the 6th overall pick. But look, outside of those 3, the Thunder don't have that many threats that the Bulls really have to worry about. I'm going to say it again, but Vucevic must have a big game tonight in taking advantage of the Thunder's lack of size and strength down low. Like after the game Vucevic had last night against the Magic, he has to step up and get easy points and rebounds in the paint. The Bulls need him to dominate in this game. Of course, we probably thought that was going to be the case in Orlando, and we all saw what happened. Then the Bulls will face the Raptors on Wednesday at the United Center. Now, let's hope that Zach Lavine is at least back in the lineup by this game. As I mentioned before, having an energizer presence like Javonte Green would be nice as well. But the Raptors, have been a surprising team this season because they started off the year really slow, and most people expected they would be one of the bottom teams in the East. But they have since showed up well and found them in the hunt for a play-in spot. Fred VanVleet has been awesome for them. Pascal Siakam, after missing the beginning of the season due to injury, has started looking great. They've got OG Anunoby, Gary Trent Jr., the rookie Scotty Barnes, Chris Boucher. Like, they've got some solid talent and depth on that team. And unlike the Bulls, they're actually healthy right now. I do see this game being a struggle for the Bulls, even if Zach is back, because the Raptors have more athletic bigs who can rebound well in Siakam, Anunoby, Boucher, even Precious Achiuwa. And without guys like Javonte and Derrick Jones Jr., who give the Bulls some length in terms of wingspan and can match that athleticism of the Raptors forwards, it's going to be a struggle, especially for someone like Vucevic, who does not do well against players like that. This likely is going to be another matchup for Ayo guarding VanVleet. I mean, really, we have to assume that until Lonzo and Caruso get back, Ayo is going to be guarding the opposing team's best player on a nightly basis, at least if they're in the backcourt, because who else do the Bulls have really that can defend well? I'm not really sure who's going to be guarding Siakam for the Bulls, which is why it will be a big help to have someone like Javonte Green back. And then finally, OG Anunoby, he's probably going to be a tough matchup for DeRozan on offense, as OG is a solid defender and has the lateral quickness to keep up with someone like DeMar. Then the Bulls head to San Antonio on Friday, where DeRozan will play his first game back in San Antonio. The Spurs, currently 17-30, are obviously in a rebuild, but I feel like the Spurs just always make good work of the Bulls, so I'm not going to take them lightly. DeJounte Murray is probably their best player and will be another tough matchup for Ayo. Jakob Poeltl, who I still think is one of the more underrated big men in the league, is someone that might give Vucevic some problems. And then, of course, the rookie Devin Vassell, who has been a nice pickup for them. He gives them added depth off the bench. Really, the key for the Bulls in this one is that the Spurs, despite their record, are one of the best passing and rebounding teams in the league, which is something the Bulls have struggled with lately. So ball movement is going to be critical, taking advantage of the Spurs' lack of defense, especially in the second unit. And then also, the Spurs are the second worst free throw shooting team in the league. Make them earn their buckets and try to get them to the line rather than settling for easy outside shots. Force the issue, get them into the paint. Then the Bulls will close out the week against the Blazers on Sunday. Now, I'm sure most of you know by now that Damian Lillard will be out for a significant period of time, and it's possible he may even miss the rest of the season, which is unfortunate for the Bulls because the first round pick that they got from them in the market and sign-in trade likely won't convey to them this year, since that pick is lottery protected. But let's hope the Bulls find a trade in the works for that pick that will include somebody coming to us in the coming weeks as we approach the trade deadline. Now, the Blazers were pretty bad, but they did start picking up some wins, which has been in part due to the fact that CJ McCollum has returned to the roster after his own injury. But as long as Damian Lillard isn't playing, I can rest a little easier for the Bulls in this game. The Bulls lost to the Blazers earlier this season in a game they really should have won, and they actually did a great job on Damian Lillard in limiting his ability to score, thanks in large part to Lonzo and Caruso, but the Blazers still came away with a win. This game will be all about limiting McCollum and his shooting, and just understanding that without Lillard, the Blazers are one of the worst offensive teams in the league, just in terms of pure scoring, which the Bulls should be able to win in a shootout. Again, assuming Lavine is back by then, which it sounds like he will be. And although Nurkic is a solid center for the Blazers, he's one of the top rebounders in the game right now, Vucevic has historically done pretty well against Nurkic and is actually an easier matchup for him against some of these quicker, more athletic bigs around the league. Now, as for my predictions for this week, I don't know. This is a tough one because the Bulls are still going to be without some of their top players. They're for sure going to be without two of their best defenders in Lonzo Ball and Caruso. And with the way the Bulls played last night against the Magic, I really don't know what to expect from this team anymore. If I was a betting man, I'd say the Bulls likely go 2-2, losing to the Raptors and the Spurs, just because I think those two teams give them the most problems than a team like the Thunder and Blazers. I mean, a lot of it depends on how soon Zach comes back, because if you have Lavine back and the Bulls are playing against the Spurs, who are 17-30, you'd have to think that they can beat that team. And even the Raptors, being at home, who are still at 500, like a team that has DeMar, Lavine, and Vucevic, you would expect them to show up well and win games like those. But honestly, a lot of it just depends on Vucevic and how he shows up. The guy just has been very inconsistent this whole year, and the whole early slump to a season, or it's only just been a few games narrative, is starting to become, well, is this just reality for Vucevic now that he's 31 and is potentially starting to decline at this stage in his career? I hope that's not the case, but it does concern me as a fan when I see him continuing to string poor games together. Anyway, the Bulls will be playing later tonight against the Thunder. I'll have a live game chat on the channel as well as the Discord for that, so feel free to join if you're interested. Until then, guys, as always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I do post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.